You're holding XRP. Have you ever wondered where you rank on the rich list? Are you in the top 1%, maybe the top 5%? And more importantly, if XRP were to hit $25, $100, $500, or even $1,000, what would that actually mean for your portfolio? Let's break it down, because the numbers are pretty eye-opening. According to All in Crypto's breakdown, to be in the top 1% of XRP holders worldwide, you'd need around 50,000 XRP. The top 2% comes in at 25,000 XRP, top 3% at 15,000, top 4% at 10,000, and the top 5% of all XRP holders globally sits at 8,370 XRP. Now let's look at the potential value of those holdings if XRP really takes off. At 8,000 XRP, the top 5%, if XRP hits $25, that's $200,000. At $100, you're sitting at $800,000. At $500, it's $4 million. And if XRP were ever to touch $1,000, that's $8.3 million. Not bad for being in the top 5%. Move up to the top 4% with 10,000 XRP. At $25, you're looking at $300,000. At $100, it jumps to $1.2 million. At $500, you'd be at $6. $2 million. And at $1,000 per XRP, that's $12 million. Now, the top 1% is where it gets really wild. With 50,000 XRP, at $25, you'd be sitting at $1.25 million. At $100, it's $5 million. At $500, that jumps to $25 million. And at $1,000 per XRP, we're talking $50 million. That's life-changing money for anyone in that bracket. So yes, just holding XRP in these ranges could potentially transform financial futures if XRP reaches those higher valuations. But here's the big update. The very first spot XRP ETF is about to go live. The Rex Osprey Spot XRP ETF is set to officially launch September 12, 2025. This is historic. It's the first time an XRP ETF will directly hold XRP tokens instead of futures contracts, giving both retail and institutional investors regulated access through normal brokerage accounts. That means if you have a standard stock account, you could soon buy into XRP exposure without ever touching a crypto exchange. This ETF is filed under the Investment Company Act of 1940, which gives it flexibility similar to spot Bitcoin and Ethereum ETFs. And Rex Osprey isn't stopping at XRP. They're rolling out a suite of products tied to assets like Dogecoin, Bonk, Trump Coin, and Bitcoin. The market implications here are huge. Analysts expect significant inflows, just like what happened with Bitcoin and Ethereum ETFs. But here's the key. These products only exist because customers demand them. BlackRock created Bitcoin and Ethereum ETFs because investors pushed for them. If you want your broker to list an XRP ETF, call them, email them, demand it. That's how change happens. Now, let's zoom out to the bigger picture. Economists are warning that the U.S. is dangerously close to a debt spiral. Years of cheap credit have inflated massive bubbles, especially in real estate. The U.S. is now spending over $1 trillion annually just on interest payments alone. That's 20% of all federal tax revenue. And in the next decade, we could add another $20 trillion in debt. If nothing changes, it's a mathematical certainty that the system collapses. The only way out. Something as big as the fourth industrial revolution has to outpace debt growth, and blockchain technology, tokenization, and crypto adoption are sitting right at the center of that possibility. In fact, the U.S. is already leaning on crypto. Stablecoins are largely backed by U.S. treasuries, which helps keep demand alive for U.S. debt. Without crypto, the dollar might be falling even faster right now. But make no mistake, if spending doesn't get under control, we're looking at collapsing investor confidence, money printing, inflation, and a rapidly weakening dollar. In just the last 5 years, the dollar has already lost 25% of its buying power. Meanwhile, adoption is exploding. Gemini just launched the XRP Edition credit card. Imagine swiping your card for everyday purchases and earning XRP rewards. You'll get 4% back on gas and EV charging, 3% on dining, 2% on groceries, and 1% on everything else. Plus, a 200 XRP bonus if you spend a certain amount in the first 3 months. No annual fee. It's a MasterCard World Elite. so you can use it anywhere MasterCard is accepted. And the kicker? XRP rewards held for at least a year have historically outperformed traditional cashback cards by 452%. That's real adoption in motion. People stacking XRP just by living their normal lives. On top of that, Binance just teamed up with Franklin Templeton, a $1.6 trillion asset manager, to expand digital asset exposure. Ripple's Brad Garlinghouse has said Rust is targeting a top 5 stablecoin position by year's end, with most of it currently issued on Ethereum, though XRP ledger adoption is the next big push. In Europe, Christine Lagarde is calling for governments to finalize the legislative framework for a digital euro. Alongside it, the EU is rolling out its digital ID wallet, with full implementation targeted by 2026. Digital identity, digital money, and AI-driven regulation are being fused together at lightning speed. And while it's still speculation, the XRP ledger and Ripple are strong candidates to play a role in the European CBDC framework. So, XRP holders, we're living through history right now. Between ETFs, credit card adoption, stablecoin competition, global debt concerns, and CBDC rollouts, XRP is positioning itself right at the intersection of finance and technology. If XRP hits those higher prices, the rich list won't just be numbers. It'll be a map of who saw the future before the rest of the world caught up.